Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL Officially Unofficial Podcast, episode 11. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexia, go by MaskedSwan on the internet. I am, of course, joined by the congratulatory winners of the LJL Officially Unofficial, Initia1ise and Nymaera. Because they are truly the two men that really carry a lot of this, because they do all the play-by-play stuff and the color commentary. So it really does help having them here. Gentlemen, as I say always, introduce yourselves.
Yeah, pleasure to be here again. It's kind of been an interesting week, this one.
The pauses will never not get me.
No, I'll just take it this time. It's fine. I sort of sat there with a pause thinking, is he going to take it? No. Got it.
No, I'm good.
So yeah, no, I'm Sam. I'm Initia1ise. I'm glad to be back. I think, was this episode 11?
It is episode 11.
Wow.
11.
11. Okay.
We hit double digits last episode.
Yeah. So properly into double digits now, and it's going to be an interesting episode. I think, possibly a little shorter, and I'm quite looking forward to it. Actually, for once, I think it should be a concise, condensed, concentrated content.
Well, I like those words.
But not with lack of things to say, through our time here. We actually have managed to think of some stuff that could hopefully bring some merit to you listening to this or watching it wherever you are.
And who is talking at this moment in time?
I have no idea. I don't know his name.
I was going to get to that. I was going to segue, and then also I'm like, and of course, I am always Nymaera Alex Hapgood.
I thought you were Initia1ise.
I'm just that one guy. I have to say, so I had a friend who listened in and was like, so there's a bit of a problem. I actually can't tell which voice is yours.
Well,
the problem having three British people,
with not dissimilar accents,
similar age and build and sensibilities and speaking mannerisms.
Yeah, there's that.
Okay, well, yeah, but the mannerisms comes from me, and then you two just copy me because I'm so just amazing and impressive. And let's all say sure together. Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Oh boy. The Leximon has been let out of the Pokeball, and this is what he says.
Sure. That would definitely be me as a Pokemon. I would be Shoromon. I don't know how happy I am with that. I would much rather just be a Pelican Pokemon like my boy, but...
I forgot Pelipper was your thing.
Boy.
I'm Lapras, by the way. Lapras and Charizard.
At least we're water Pokemon. We'd be around each other.
Flygon, yeah?
Cool.
Alright.
Fuck that ground type, man. The ground types.
Ground dragon, though. I can fly. It's fine.
You can fly, but we can also just fire our water at you and you get hurt.
I mean,
dragon, though, so I resist it, so...
But
it's normal.
Lapras is ice type, so double effective.
Ooh. Yeah, you're actually the worst.
Yeah, that's
actually,
why we get
4 times, isn't it? Yeah.
I deliver mail!
How do we... That's great. How did we end up here? We digressed, wildly away.
The LJL Officially Unofficial, we are the only podcast that fully covers the LJL in the English-speaking language, and we are your one-stop shop for all news when it comes to the Japanese Professional Pro League of League of Legends. That is why we're talking about it, because it's Japanese and Pokemon is made by a Japanese company.
That was a good link. I appreciate it. We'll take it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm all about that.
Close enough.
I mean, I don't listen to myself think. Just what I do.
There are people that there's a difference between people that do have inner monologues and those that don't. So I can hear words in my head in some kind of weird way, right? But not everyone has that apparently. Some people hear or then there's the people that think thoughts in colors, and they kind of do all that weird stuff where they kind of and they did colors turn up as numbers in people's brains as well. Weird ways.
I know what you mean by this. So
synesthesia.
Yeah. There's this whole thing of I could put our listeners into a horrible place in immediate. So I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to continue with the introduction because I will do this whole conversation. I'm going to write a note now actually on the document because I want to talk to you two about this because I think I've talked to you both about this before, but I kind of want to go. Anyway.
Curiosity.
If you're interested in that topic, dear listeners, ask me over on our Discord server.
There you go. You can't find out from the episode. You got to go for the behind the.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
That wasn't a really unfortunate.
I'm back, I think.
Yeah, you are.
You're back. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get anything that's just happened then, so...
We were insulting you briefly.
So well, I mean, that's normal.
It wasn't the best freeze frame, that's what I'll say.
Oh, I can imagine it probably isn't with me.
Oh.
But let's finish... Let's finish this... I mean, I was signed, She's a model, you know. But anyway, this podcast is brought to you by us and only us. We have no affiliation with Riot Games or Riot Japan or any of their partners. This is done all off of our own back. You can think of this as a fan podcast about the LJL. Again, this also is all of our own independent views and does also not represent the LJL Officially Unofficial Cast that we do perform whenever the LJL is live, or not as soon after they've been live. Please, by all means, do check out our social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Our Discord server, as I already plugged earlier, is our main way. And also, all of our handles that we use on Twitter is underneath our lovely faces, as well as in our show notes. Talking about show notes, you can find the audio version of our podcast on all major streaming platforms except for SoundCloud, because guess what? I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested. We don't do it. We're not SoundCloud rappers. Why would we? Think about it logically. Do I look like a rapper?
You don't have a postcode look to you, I grant you.
Yeah, so let's not go with that. And obviously, we've said it a few times in our podcast, just be safe. We all know that the world's in a weird place right now. Just social distance, be safe and wash your hands, and tell those that you love them, because that can go a lot further than you think. Mental health is always important.
Not everyone is used to living inside for most of their lives. Sometimes they need the extra contact.
Yeah, exactly. So, that is our introduction. And what, gentlemen, is going to be our main topic of this podcast?
Right. Okay, so I'm going to take this. So basically, I think it was after we were done recording our last podcast, we were thinking, well, okay, there's no more games for the next week yet again. We've been over a lot of what we wanted to do in this break, already. We'll have another episode where we'll kind of run up to the games once again. But what are we going to do with this dip week in the middle? So I was kind of just throwing out some ideas of stuff that we could do to kind of have a lengthy discussion about. And one thing which I kind of thought, which doesn't involve let's look back at our earlier predictions and do something like that, because that's kind of more after this split is, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each team in the LJL and make one legal roster change to them and try and make them a better team. So for each of us have gone away, haven't talked about it, and have looked at each of the different rosters and hopefully come up with some decisions to make these teams either different or better. We'll see. We'll have to agree or disagree when it comes along, but that's the whole idea. We'll see how it works out.
Now, I have a Red Bull next to me, and just before we get into this, if you would like to sponsor our podcast, this will be the absolute moment before we go into this main one as I open up this Red Bull, and there's nothing quite like the refreshing taste of Red Bull. We're not sponsored. Not sponsored. We are not sponsored. We are not sponsored by Red Bull. I have to make that very clear here. I'm doing a joke. They'll get it because they're pretty chill. But yeah, sponsor. Your sponsor could be
every podcast platform apart from SoundCloud, if not there. I will be really upset.
If you want to sponsor me with tea, I'll love you for
we'll take a tea. I mean, that's very much a thing for us.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But yes, as Nymaera alluded to and explained, this is how we've done it, and I'm gonna say, let's just get right into it. In 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's been too long since I've said that. It's been far too long since I've said that.
Man.
Oh, God.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Oh,
I'm still got a hanker.
In a blast from the past.
Ooh, I think we've decided we're going to do this alphabetically.
We have. We agreed. So I'll take the lead and then I'll let you guys just...
Yeah.
I'll dictate it between the two of you. So, our first team, in alphabetical order, as Nymaera stated, is going to be Axis. So, in Axis, the lineup for Axis, as I think that's important for us to always explain who the lineup is we have Eunyan in the top lane, Hogla in the jungle, Gariadu in the mid lane, Hyde as their carry, and Corporal as their support. Now, they do have 2 substitute supports, and there is technically another support player, but regardless, we're only treating main rosters that were mostly prevalent in the LJL 2020 spring split, so that basically just means the main 5 anyway, because there weren't any real subs throughout the season, so we don't have to worry about that. So, my pick for the first switch for Axis is going to be, I'm gonna switch out Hyde for Gango.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Interesting.
Initialize your change.
I would. So I was having. So here was the two. I had two potential options. I think would both work. I agree with the hide swap.
I want your raw pick. Rip off that band-aid.
Yeah, I think Art would be a really good fit there.
Okay, so we've all had the same idea.
Okay.
I've also gone for Art, actually. Art in for Hide. I did think about Gango as well. So
Okay.
why did we all think this? And why do we go for these players?
So, for me, you can't get rid of Eunyan and Gariadu. That's quite clearly the building blocks of this team. And they've had success with it. So it's not broke. There's potential here.
Yes.
Hoglet was not a problem for me. And Corporal, in a lot of our minds, is top 4, top 3 support in the region.
Yeah.
So it has to fall to Hide for me.
Yeah.
Gentlemen?
I mean, I remember way back in, like, back when Axes were just about to go on their winning streak and they had, like, that Lysandra Jinx combo they were running for a bit. I just remember those games when Hyde just wasn't quite positioning right, or, well, no, he was just positioning very poorly and it could potentially cost them the game. I've had my issues with Eunyan's laning phase. I briefly thought about him, because I know you said, like, oh, you can't replace him and stuff. I did think about it. I think he's been really impressive in team fights when he's come in even or ahead, but when he's behind, sometimes it makes the map really shaky because they can't team fight particularly well. Particularly when they've shoved him on something like Camille, which takes a long time to come on.
I'm actually thinking a lot when Eunyan lost to Dasher in the top lane in the early few weeks, and it
that was when he was the GP versus. No, that was the second game they had. Oh yeah, I remember the one.
But it all fell apart, and it was when the Hawks still looked like, oh, maybe there's hope, but before actually, Axis were the team to watch.
Yeah, so Sam and I both went for Art, and for me, it's just like Art is the AD carry, which just he does demand quite a lot, but Axis are a team with not very demanding players, so I think that he would slot really far in there. It's also why Gango would work, so I really like that pick as well. It's not something which I necessarily thought through in my head. But I think Art's laning phase with Corporal would be really fun to watch.
Okay, initialize.
So yeah, I agree, because my question there was basically, like, I think with all of us thinking about Hyde, I half thought about, I wondered whether Ebby in for Eunyan might be another option, because my issue with Axis a little bit is they play to good game plans, and I think Gariadu and Hoglet do a really good job of playing to their win conditions from about the 10 to 15 minute mark and the sort of early fights to sort of get themselves into games. What they're really lacking for me is kind of a point of serious pressure and a point of clutch.
Sure.
And so when things are going wrong on the fly, Axis can sometimes look a little bit lost. And that's kind of part of the way a young roster can sometimes look out. They either do one of two things. They either go full Mad Lions and just go balls to the wall, or and just fight everywhere and it gets really
messy. Which isn't doing too bad.
Yeah, exactly. It has worked out. Okay, they take down G2, right? You can do that kind of thing. On the other hand, you can also play to the Fiesta and Fnatic can come along and slap. Like, there is that. But Axis kind of go the other way, where when their plans don't come off, or their first couple ideas don't come off, they don't really have the fallback instinct, I think is what it is sometimes. And I think they've got a bit of star power. Gariadu, I think, is actually genuinely pretty good. I think Corporal is genuinely pretty good. I think Hoglet is genuinely pretty good. But they can lose cohesiveness. And sometimes they just need someone to rally around who can just hard carry in a clutch. And for me, that's Art. And also for early on, when they just need someone to go, screw it, I'm going to pick Aphelios, I'm going to run Onslaught, and I'm going to 1v3 in a bot lane. At you, bring it. So, like sometimes you just need that guy to be a point of pressure, not just a point of clutch. And I think switching out a lane that is currently kind of
shaky.
Yeah, quiet, I think, at best sometimes. I think Corporal has shown good mechanics and great sort of roaming and stuff. I think having someone that Corporal can team up with and just a lane that Axis can look to blast. Because I don't think they have a lane they can look to blast at the minute. And that means they can do that, and then they've got the clutch on top.
I get why Gango would do that as well, though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That would be my reason for Gango as well.
So I picked Gango also because, I mean, I need to now look at the fucking wiki page for Art, because I honestly don't know how long. Part of the reason I picked Gango is arguably, we all know about this if you've listened to our podcast for a long time. I'm all about sometimes tenure with younger players. Yeah, Art hasn't played in the league for anywhere near as long. He started in 2018. Obviously, very good player in the grand scale of things. Gango's been playing professionally since 2013. So that kind of helps me, because I feel like part of Axis needs to foster their younger talent. And I would really like to see a player like Gango also going in there. While he's 22 and he's basically still a kid at heart, he's got experience from playing on so many teams around the world. Well, mostly just Korea and Japan, but still that experience.
And some of the very best, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, KT Rolster, USG, Samson White in the very early of his career as well. So, like, I think that would be impressive. I mean, I think you guys hit it perfectly on the head. The interesting thing is, we didn't put our number 1 AD carry in this spot. Why? We're opening up a Korean slot, so we could have put Yutori Muashi in there. We could have put Gang in there. Why did you gentlemen not pick them?
So my problem, if you put Yutori Miyashi in there, I think it might end up looking like Sengoku in the early weeks of this split, where Yutori Miyashi would be there, doing admirably in lane on something like a Misfortune, but just not being able to win the game because there's no one else to really set him up in the same kind of way. And that's if they don't, fire on all cylinders. It could work out fantastically. We've seen that Axis do place their win conditions quite well. And actually, Axis in a lot of ways are, for me, kind of Sengoku light, and not in an insulting way. They take a lot of the same kind of mannerisms there as a team. I think that it would be an interesting thought experiment, but I think that I just think they need someone who's just a little bit more pop off, a bit more flash potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Craziness.
Yeah. So again, I kind of agree. I think it's fair to say I think all of us probably prefer Yutori Miyashi. I think Yutori Miyashi is probably the pretty well and can hard carry games out of nowhere. He can do it.
But I also do think Gang and Arc could also do that as well. Gango and Arc could also do that for Axis.
But what I think Arc does, and I think this is kind of partly what Nymaera was sort of alluding to, but I think it goes a little bit further, is what Arc kind of does is, or Gango for that matter, is they basically, if things go wrong, they demand. Is what happens. And they, rather than sort of fall back and play safe, they add volatility, and that's not always the best thing from an AD carry position.
True.
But that volatility and that kind of raw demand for resources and pressure and respect can offer a focal point and a focus for a team, especially if things are starting to fall into disarray. If Art then steps forward suddenly, or Gango steps forward suddenly and goes, I can do X, Y, and Z, come with me, that offers something. That you say, if Yutori Miyashi is playing Ezreal and staying alive in a team fight, but not demanding things of his team sometimes, I think that kind of little bit of selfishness, actually, I think is potentially quite powerful here. It costs him. It's the problem with, say, Wild Turtle when he was at his best, sometimes he would be at his worst too.
The international example I would use would be like Cody Sun to Wild Turtle. Cody Sun, like, he always survives a team fight if there's a way for him to survive a team fight, really. But he doesn't necessarily end up getting the kills with someone like Wild Turtle flashing forward and getting kills. Something does, right? And that works out in a number of ways. I just feel like for Axis who do really like to occasionally just like get that engage on, having someone who's able to do that in someone like Gango or Art would be pretty cool. And
they're good. They're players that can play on switches. They can either
go watch the best of 5 between them. Go watch CJ Rascal Jester. Really, really fun.
Yeah, it's a really good way of looking at that one. Yeah. Let's closing thoughts then, gentlemen.
So it's just thinking, like, actually, I do think Utapon and Yutori Miyashi would actually probably be fine in that team too. And the thing is, if they had to step up, yeah, exactly. I think they could ball. I think the thing is, both of, say, Yutori Miyashi or Utapon or any of the other guys are good enough players with enough different play styles under their belt that they could step up and play that style if they needed to. I just think it's more natural to someone like Art.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. Our next team, gentlemen, is Burning Core. Nymaera, who would you switch out of Burning Core?
All right. You guys might really just tear my head on for this one. Okay.
I'm interested.
I am switching out their mid laner, who is Rocky, and I'm switching Rocky out.
He was on my cards.
The SoftBank Hawks mid laner Ramune.
I wondered about that.
Interesting.
I have switched in Ramune. What have you guys gone for?
Initia1ise?
I went Yuhi for Yutori Miyashi.
So which lane is that?
Bot lane.
So you're switching out their bot lane carry for Yutori Miyashi, who is arguably the best one at the moment. Yeah. I switched out their jungler once. And I didn't put another Korean player in. I put a Japanese player. I put in Rascal Jester's Hachimacha in.
I can
Oh,
see
that's
that. I know you really
interesting.
rate him. I know. I wondered about that.
So
yeah.
I'll quickly explain why I picked Hachimecha, because I actually did a little bit of research. So, right, there's that legit thing here. So, Savage was the jungler for Burning Core at the same time when Rayfaki was the top laner, right?
I see. Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Savage is now the coach for Rascal Jester.
He is.
All right. I think these two gentlemen probably think in very similar ways, especially for a coach that was once a professional jungler for a long time, and now you've got arguably one of the top junglers in the region.
They influence each other, yeah.
Exactly. So I think there's a very interesting thing, and I think potentially Hachimecha could be a really strong player and really help Rayman in that top lane actually kind of figure out the game. That's
I absolutely love that pick in so many ways, because I was thinking about.
But I also was definitely thinking about Rocky and everywhere else as well. So
because basically what I thought is I had to make a conscious decision when I was thinking about this. Do I want to keep the Hawks' style of play the same? If so, how do you improve that? If not the Hawks, the Burning Core.
Yeah, of course.
Do I want to keep this playstyle the same, or do I want to change it? If you want to change the playstyle, you got to change once, and that's where I think.
Yes. That's exactly it.
That's why I'm very much like, okay, I very much like Hachimecha. I think that would work. What I was going the other way and say, right, screw it. Let's have this balls to the wall style. Once loves to play, just up in your face, all this other stuff. Who likes to do that?
He does.
Ramune absolutely loves to do that.
Yeah.
He has split in a lot of ways, but I think that maybe them playing off each other would allow a lot more plays to be made.
I think that's a really interesting way. Actually, I like it more that you say it.
Yeah, it could be awful. Could be absolutely dog crap.
I mean, it can't go any worse for the Hawks, can it? And Ramune.
No, not a minute.
Initialize, go on. Yuhi out.
Yeah.
Yutorimashi in.
Yeah. So, couple reasons for this.
Okay.
Do you mind giving me a minute just to kind of like give some
Go.
context?
I took a minute, remember? So go ahead.
So, my read on my take rather on how Burning Core play is, and why they play the way they do. Why they play the way they do is they love once goes balls to the wall early. He picks Shinsa. He picks Lee Sin. He and Rayfaki go for hard snowball carries, and they look to absolutely run over the early game and then try and take it into a mid game and take their kind of enormous leads and just hit people with the wallet and the kill count.
Yeah, it's how they got into playoffs. No, tiebreaker. Tiebreaker, at least.
Kind of, and at their best, we've seen once with Proud on the back of them do dumb things with Gragas Thresh and Lee Sin Yumi and Rayfaki on Darius and Gangplank doing disgusting things.
Rayfaki things.
Yeah, exactly. What they run into an issue is that they will have this massive lead and they'll be looking to snowball things down. And they then realize that their backline cannot hold up what the front line has started. Because Rocky and Yuhi have abysmal DPMs. They are not good. Rocky on lower. Rocky on. I think the only time I've seen him do decent damage numbers was on a Victor game, and even then that was that was just go to AOE team fight. But like he would be on LeBlanc and just doing
Victor things.
Nothing. Or he'd be doing LeBlanc and doing nothing. He'd be on so many of his Zoe games, particularly. I remember being very ineffective, and we've just come off watching Niski, right, who's 54 KDA in the playoffs and Zoe, doing utterly unholy things on this sort of, a goddess, right, which is ironic, really. This is like Trickster goddess who's actually a
piece of shit.
That thing is just. I actually watched Nymaera walk out of the room when we were watching that game. He got up and left, and that's the kind of thing which you can do with Zoe, right? And I just don't see it for Rocky. I don't see it from Yuhi. And when you have got people who are trying so damn hard to pull off these early game snowballs, Proud will go and roam, he'll join once, Rayfaki will come and throw these crazy teleports in. And the reason they have to, my read is, the reason they have to go so damn crazy is because they know that they cannot team fight to save them lives without a massive gold lead because their backline carries don't put out the DPM. I think they would be a lot more stable and a lot more successful if they had someone who was a bit more consistent. Rocky isn't going to die in the mid lane, really. Yuhi, on the other hand, Yuhi, the other thing is, actually, I still think you need to keep a little bit of that kind of playstyle that is kind of Burning Core strength, and that is once being really good in the early game. It's Proud having aggressive roams. It's Rayfarky on those aggressive picks. But if you're wanting to play with these kind of high pressure top sides, you need someone who can stay alive in the bot side, potentially by themselves, because Proud will be roaming with one.
I like that actually when you've explained it. It's really similar to how Nymaera put it, but you kind of want.
Actually, maybe Sam's got a better angle on it.
Because I actually think Yutori Muashi, he is kind of selfish, but he will basically. But if you're saying mid lane, bot lane selfish, and you can still have Rayfarky and Once around the map, I actually really like the pick.
Yeah.
Really like it.
And the thing is, if you know you're going to get a snowball from the top side of the map, and then they can transition that into dragon fights where Yutori Muashi can have these guys in the front line, and you know that man will come to a team fight with his items one way or another. And if you need someone to offer stability, great DPM, and hard carry when you need it, that is a great transition point, because you can go from the early game into Yutori Muashi, especially because you know Proud's not going to be there, so he can stay alive by himself.
I raise you this, though.
Yeah.
The chance of that happening, that trade, is absolutely zero.
Yeah, it's never happened.
My one's more likely to happen, at least.
Exactly.
But I mean, granted.
Yeah. I mean, that would be how you improve Burning.
Oh yeah, it would be, but like, Burning Core's got a few underlying problems, not to the extent that the Hawks are at, which is going to be an interesting conversation. But let's go on to the team which has a church built in their name for their mid laner. We're going over to Crest Gaming Act. In their top lane, they have Nap. In their jungle, they have Yoshi. In their mid lane, they have Arya. In the bot lane, they have Gango. And as their support, they have Grendel. Initia1ise. Sir, who's your swap?
I was wondering about this one a little bit, and I think Crest Gaming Act issues often devolve into, has Grendel been picked, yes or no? And has that got better over the years? It really has. I mean, it's got a lot better, but like we have also seen it be a serious issue. So I actually think you could potentially switch him out. And I've been trying to figure out who I would switch him for. And I think I would switch him out for Reina, because I think V3 play a similarly aggressive style, even if they are V3 a little bit heavier towards diving.
Reina.
But I think CGA also are in kind of that thing where, you know, we've seen games from them where it'll be Arya on, you know, like casting with a Kai'Sa by the sides when they go diving in, and you know the Rascal Jester series is all over that. And if you give Gango someone like Reina on the side, who is alongside Boogie, the mastermind of a lot of their early plays and snowballs, I think you see a big improvement in how CGA play.
Okay. I'm going to want to pick your brain on that specific player in a bit. But I will first hand it over to myself, actually. I will go second, and then I will let our lovely colorcaster end us out. I decided to, I feel bad. I didn't want that to be a repeat, but I feel bad. But you have to switch out Yoshi and put Hachimecha back, because when Hachimecha played, guess what? They got to the top. They were the second best team in the region when Hachimecha was with them. Not a huge amount of the team changed except for him leaving, and he hard carried. Putting in the person that was in his shadow from last split has not paid off. They played at the same time. Hachimecha played almost every single game.
Yoshi was the understudy. Yeah.
And he was learning, and he's not quite picked it up. Maybe Hachimecha needs to put more YouTube videos out. I'm not sure. Maybe he needs more content. I'd be up for that. Hachimecha,
he does
listening.
A lot of videos.
He does. He's a great jungler. But that's easy. That's the easy one for me. I'm just like literally just going, last year with this year's that. So Nymaera.
Yeah, and I have actually gone for the same pick.
Oh, okay.
I can see Sam's reasoning for. Sorry, it was Sorry, what was
Grendel out for Reina.
Grendel out for Reina. Yeah, I can understand that mainly because Grendel has been such a volatile player, but I think that Yoshi has been on the losing end of most of the jungle matchups. He had some really good games, particularly, you know, like in the quarterfinals versus Rascal Jester, he did end up having a couple of really good games. In the semifinals, in the first two games, he had a really good matchup against Boogie of all people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I feel like it's just a consistency. Just Hachimecha is just Mr. Consistent. This guy just doesn't miss a shot. I was half thinking about Tussle actually.
Oh, I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, partly because so for the last team, so when I switched in Ramune onto Burning Core, it was like, well, why don't you just put Arya in? It wouldn't have been a legal swap. I would have had to switch out a Japanese player for another Japanese player. It's the same thing here. Tussle is Korean, but he does have Japanese residency, so he would have been available for me to change into CGA. I think that would have been a bit more team fight. I feel like in a lot of ways, Tussle is kind of the better version of what Yoshi tries to do a lot of the time. In terms of like
I
just
see
like,
that.
bam, wham, pow, let's go do stuff. Just that Yoshi doesn't always end up sticking the landing on that. But Tussle has had a bit of a weird split in himself. Obviously, being on the Hawks, it's not been a great time there. I don't know whether that's the full team thing or whether that's individual play as well. So I went for Hachimecha, just kind of playing it a bit safe there. Kind of like, well, Hachimecha's kind of been consistent. We've seen how like his highs and lows are quite close together, you know? Like he doesn't tend to fall down too badly, whereas Tussle's had some really bad moments this split. So yeah, I've gone for Hachimecha as well.
So let me just first ask the question to Initialize.
Yeah.
Why did you pick Reina over NT, Vivid, or Corporal?
Or Gang.
Or Gang.
Gang.
No, Gang's not a legal pick.
Yeah.
No.
Gang's not legal. So it'd basically be Reina, NT, or Corporal. So I actually really
Or
rate
Vivid.
Reina in a minute.
Vivid's also a Korean, but he's Japanese citizen.
So currently my support tier list goes this way. It is Gang at the top. It is Reina second. It is Corporal third, and then it is NT. And I think Reina is the better half of the Archer-Reina duo, who have looked very good this split. I think I've commented this on a number of other posts before, but like particularly the games versus the Hawks, where Reina on the Thresh did kind of amazing stuff. His Tom Kench play has been
very
really,
true.
Really
Yeah.
And I think also his play style is one I think works really well with the way that Gango wants to play, and namely that is enabling a carry.
Yeah, that's
Gango
true.
wants to be an aggressive point on the map. He's a Draven player for heaven's sake. Like this is a man who wants to go balls to wall in lane, and V3 play by going, oh look, Ace and Boogie are around the bot lane tower. People are level 2. Why are they doing this? What is Reina doing? That's a flash hook. Where did this come from?
Why are you doing this?
This is kind of how they play, and I
True.
think having a guy who is so good at both roaming and diving, and also playing the clutch, keep the AD carry alive moments is what you need when you've got a guy like Gango who plays with a Draven and plays close to the edge. I think that's the pick that gives CGA another win condition. Because I think Gango is in a bit of a weird spot where it's difficult to know whether he'll actually...
Great.
Yeah, and half the time, and I think the way you increase that consistency is you give him a support who can enable him and start things up for him to follow up.
So it comes down to a personal tier list sort of thing. So that's fine. That's fine.
If you sponsor our podcast, you would have seen Lexi drank his can there.
Oh, yeah. Anything.
Yeah.
Whenever I drink or whenever we can have background stuff, like you'll be amazed how much I'll shill out for sponsorship.
On my teacup and go,
I can shave your name into my beard.
Or if an esports organization is interested in sponsoring us, we can wear jerseys or hoodies.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of these.
Hopefully, though, it would be a Japanese league because that would make a lot more sense. But we know some pros listen out there. Hit up your social media managers. I'm a marketing major, so we can talk. Probably very poorly through Google Translate, but we can talk. Interesting discussion. That I like how two of us actually had the exact same pick. I was not expecting that to actually happen.
I think
that was the only one I think you could get, though.
So this is my issue with
I agreed on Access, remember, as well.
Yes, true.
Same thing. I like how and that's kind of, there's going to be some of that because we have, we spent all this time talking and casting the same teams together in the same game, so we're going to share some of the same thought processes. But we go away and think about it on our own, and we still come up with some weird ass shit.
Oh, trust me, I'm looking forward.
I get why you could go for switching out Yoshi. Like he has been inconsistent, and also mid jungle. We've
already covered that to death. So let's move over to DFM and
this one was weird, man.
Talk about that because I think I don't think we're going to get much interesting stuff out of Yoshi really because we've been dumping on him for a while.
It was more my issue is more potential with Hachimecha. I just don't know. I wonder whether he might, because my issue with him is that if he gets a read no jungler, he's superb. If he doesn't, he's quiet.
Sure.
And I don't know whether that's good enough, but there we go.
For DFM, Detonation focus me. In the top lane, we have Ebby. In the jungle, we have Steel. In the mid lane, we have Sios. In the bot lane, we have Utapon. And in support, we have Gang. I have gone for taking out Steel, and I've put in Blank.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's quite interesting.
Because if I've got to get rid of a Korean player, I want to put in another Korean player from the league.
Oh, but
Might as well
so
put
then-
SKT in.
I like that because there's something to be said about why not Boogie but Blank playstyle stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Nymaera, who's your pick?
Oh, so I
Just
need to
rip off the
decide about-
band-aid. You know what I feel.
This is the problem. The problem is I've written down 2 options and I now need to decide on one of them.
All right, initialize. You
I've
now.
decided. No, I've decided.
Okay.
I've decided. Like it. No, you-
Go initialize.
I kind of agree with you. I think Blank is a
No,
sensible
no. Who's your
choice.
pick?
So Blank. I think
Oh,
I agree.
you literally
Yeah,
you did the
agree.
same.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck it. Gaudiadu for Seros.
I was wondering about whether someone would think about that.
Wait, sorry. Who for Seros?
Gaudiadu for Seros. So Axe's mid laner, Gaudiadu for Seros.
I mean, I guess playstyle is actually rather similar between these two
Okay,
gentlemen.
So hear me out. You have to pick a Japanese player. You can't pick
Yes.
someone like Adia.
No.
You have to pick, and then I was thinking, okay, well, what have been a lot of my criticisms for DFM? A lot of it has been, well, mid lane champion pools becoming an issue now. And you look at Gaudiadu in terms of playstyle, you're very much right. They do play to Gaudiadu. It's quite lane dominant in a lot of the ways.
Yeah.
He plays Syndra. He plays a lot of this other stuff. He loves his team fights.
But you can also play
He
LeBlanc
plays
and
LeBlanc
Zoe.
and Zoe. So that's for me. There
Yeah.
are so many things that work out for
But-
me.
This guy plays Tristana as well. You know, he plays all these weird stuff.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you just put Ramune back in?
Because I feel like Ramune is just a little bit off the handle. He just flies off and does random stuff. I think the playstyle difference might just upset the team balance a
That's
bit,
the
whereas Gaudiadu is
difficulty.
more likely to fit the team cohesion. But it was weird, and I was half thinking about Yutori Miyashi.
So the other one, obviously, that I can say is Ace. I don't think you should put Ace in for Syros.
I've not been a massive fan of him.
No, neither have I.
I know you are.
I mean,
I know you've
I
had some good-
like him, but like I'm very hot and cold on him. Sometimes I'm like he
Yeah.
could actually be better than Boogie in some games, and other times I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely.
other times I'm like, God, why are we playing this guy?
His playoffs have been good, right? His playoffs have been
Yeah,
really
they have.
nice.
Yes,
but, like,
exactly.
But the problem for me is like DFM are nothing if not consistent, and Ace is not that player. Whereas Gaudiadu for me has been
True,
he's
he's
like
been
the second
one of
most
the.
consistent player in the. No, I think for me it's like the most consistent players in the LJL this split are probably Torimiyashi, Ebby, and then maybe Gaudiadu. That's the way. I haven't thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be an
interesting.
interesting.
All up there.
Yeah,
Like it's always difficult to say put a jungler up there, right? Because jungle is inherently really volatile. Like that's kind of how the game goes. Like one small thing you do in the early game can ruin you or make you, and that can be so like someone like Boogie or Blank. It's like it's hard to put people like that up there.
Hmm.
I think
I
I
really
agree
like
with.
Blanco. I really like.
Yeah,
that.
I do too, and I think the reason that works is that we know from years of watching Blank now that when he kind of has an early game plan and he can kind of download an opponent and then that be the jungler and then also what things are going on. He communicates really well and he turns up in places to make things happen. And I think he's just very smart and very controlled with a little bit of clutch. He's got a good champion pool. Plus, I think the thing is, this is a guy who used to play on SKT with like Huni and stuff. If you want someone to run over top lane with, Blank, who's gone, yeah, I've had to play with this kind of dude who just decides to like throw Lucian top into everything and Cassiopeia top, and I have to play around with this bozo. Like, what am I gonna do? Like,
I mean
like-
that's to a point. I also just thought Blank would be more reserved as a player. He's more adaptable in a lot of spots. I think Steel has also been the weakest point in DFM for me. Like in constant settings, like yeah, he's definitely the second best
Internationally, it's not
jungler,
that
but
much.
like I mean, I'm just not interested. Like DFM are not at the point where they have to worry about not winning or making their placement to international. Until now, they had never had to really fret too much about it, especially over the last 2 years. So now I'm like, okay, I need to nitpick and pick out the weakest player. frankly, it is Steel. It has to be. Someone's got to be the worst. When you've got some of the best, someone has to be the worst. And for me, it's Steel. And I think Blank fixes that problem perfectly.
So obviously, you go back a couple of episodes in the podcast. If you go a couple of episodes back in the podcast and you look at my power rankings and stuff, I am definitely up there saying, Steel and Saros, I've got some issues with them. You go to like the end of split, like the player of the split
last week
stuff. Last week I was quite high on like Saros and Steel in terms of like just their consistent performance throughout the whole split. I mean, they did finish first place in the regular split.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of stuff, but I think like when it's come to this playoffs, I do have a lot of issues with Steel and Saros. I think Blank might solve the whole contingency plan thing that DFM might have. That's the term which I keep using, just in terms of like when DFM gets screwed over at level 1, what do they do? Well, Blank's actually been really good at just having something in his pocket to go, well, let's see how this works. And it didn't work all the time in their series versus DFM, but they did get the win, and Blank looked pretty good.
He did.
So I think what it comes down to here for me is I think Blank plays the level 1s better than Steel does at the minute. I prefer Steel in a team fight scenario. I think his Olaf and Jarvan are just very good at the minute.
We've seen a lot of good games from him in those,
Yeah. And not that I think we know Blank's Olaf is really good, but I sometimes think that's more in a skirmish sense. I just think that Tussle's kind of eye for engages with the rest of the team is very strong. But what my question is, okay, I don't think that DFM are hyper reliant on Steel to make that happen. I mean, Gang and Ebby are pretty good at it too, and Blank's not bad at it. So if what you're saying is, and I think DFM are probably the hardest team to switch around, or at least do a straight 1-for-1 switch. If you could do a 2-for-2 switch, I think you could do some different things.
I mean, if I could do illegal switches, it would have been easy, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like I would have just got rid of Siros straight up. That would have been the easiest one.
Something.
Yeah, just another premier mid laner. Like I think there's a lot of them. I think Pyrian is a very I think Pyrian is a very easy swap in, swap out for me as well. I also, as crazy as it sounds, I would have in some spots I almost prefer Ninja. Like that's how weird I am. Like I think Arya is obviously the easy one, but like that's best mid laner out. You just put best mid laner in. So I mean, it had to be somebody, and I actually really like the Gadiadu pick. I think that's actually a really smart pick. I didn't want to put Ramune in because
that would have felt really weird.
That was just roll my eyes. Yeah, but
there's a synergy there, and there's a year's worth of play with the team.
And that's why I almost consider Yutori Miyashi actually. I'm gonna eat some Skittles. But yeah, I feel like Yutori Miyashi. I'm sorry, I'm
for Utapon. I don't hate that, but like that's like swapping first place for second place. Like how much is that going to make better?
What's actually like the biggest value switch? And that was my problem with like Burning Core, Axes, like where they do have kind of like a notable weakness. I'm like, what do I do with that? And of course, actually the 3 before this is like, actually, switch at any of these and it might be interesting.
I'd like to use that as a tangent for our next team. This is the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, who is a team who had so many things going on. In top lane, we have Dasha. In jungle, we have Tussle. In mid lane, we have Ramune. In the bot lane, we have Honey. And as their support, we have Pooh. Nymaera, it's your turn, sir, to begin us out. Who was your swap?
So again, I wrote down 2 for this, and I've just decided in my head now.
Okay.
Gango. CGA's Gango. Out. So that's Honey out, Gango in.
Honey out, Gango in. Okay.
I disagree.
Initia1ise?
Strong reasons. I think it's actually a really easy switch, and I think it's Dasha for Ebby, and I will.
Okay, so I think you're both wrong. Yeah. I think you're both wrong. I actually think Dasha and Honey actually had a half-decent split. I think one of their biggest problem players was Pooh, and I'm ripping out Pooh, and I'm putting in Vivid.
Yeah,
you rip out that Pooh.
Rip it out! And I put in Vivid. Okay, so we've all gone completely different lanes, completely different places. Nymaera, as you begin us out, take the lead, sir.
Okay, so Hawks again. So in a lot of ways, I was talking about the whole Burning Core. Would I change their play style? How would I go about that and stuff? So I think that Honey and Pooh as a bot lane, they started out the split pretty okay. I think Honey had a rough end of the split. He really couldn't find anything to do. But Pooh has always been very good as a peel support. I don't think he's great in terms of his pick and everything like that. But when you've got an AD carry, which is, both just aggressive as balls and is worth protecting, I could definitely shove CGA Gango in there and just see some fireworks happen. He plays Callista, which means that you support
Korean for
cool
Korean.
champion.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's Korean for Korean there, so I could put anyone there. I didn't particularly want to put another passive person in there because Tussle, Ramune all play so aggressively. Anyway, so does Dash. He loves playing stuff like.
Why did you not pick Yutori Muashi?
Again, similar kind of reasons.
Okay.
Yes. So I half thought about Art. That was the other pick which I almost had. But again, the same kind of thing
Okay.
with when I was talking about axes and I was like, well, why didn't I put in Yutori Muashi there? I put in Art instead. I'm like, well, sometimes you need someone who's like just their mentality is front foot.
Yeah.
And while Yutori Muashi just slaughters the 2v2 in so many ways, Gango just like it's like Gandhi in Civilization. It's literally like someone's changed his political system to democracy, and it's changed his aggressiveness, which is already at the lowest rung, to -1, and that actually puts it back to the top again. So it's just like, I'm going to commit nuclear warfare onto you, and Gango pops out with a Callista, flashes into like 3 people, and does some weird shit.
I mean, Gango's a player I've already said that I'd switch in for another team. So I mean, I like it, and I think Gango is one of these players who, in a weird way, is an easy person to slot into a few different teams.
Just in terms of a playstyle thing.
Yeah.
Gango is such a... Like, if you want an aggressive playstyle, Gango is, like, he is the engage AD carry in a weird way.
True.
Okay. So I think that he's interesting.
I like it. Initia1ise, you want to switch out Dasher
for Ebby.
A Korean player, and one of their 2 Korean spots for a Japanese player, Ebby. Interesting.
Yeah,
explain, sir.
So this again is a bit of a two-fronted thing. So one is a playstyle thing, one is a player thing. I think Dasher, I think, he's new to the top lane, having transitioned from being a mid laner, and he has been caught, and he loves his hyper aggressive picks. He is the Aurelia player, he's a Lucian player, he's that kind of guy, and he has been completely solo queued, is how we'll put it. Like, he has been diving forward for 1v1s and has never been a 1v1 ever. There are 3 VODs I could pull up like that, where it's showing Dasher getting caught out by Hoglet rolling up on Olaf and getting him diving on Aurelia twice. He's done it on Lucian. He's done it on the set. Like, he just gets caught out doing that. He cannot play side lane appropriately.
But hilariously, we've also said he's probably their best player.
I actually largely disagree. I think he's mechanically very
good. Historically we've said, I'm just using facts. Historically, we've been saying he's their best player.
Oh well,
that team is like a dumpster fire at points.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, are you really gonna pull out maybe their best player? And
I don't think he is. I think he's mechanically.
Who do you think their best player is then?
Because
Tussle?
I think
has to be Tussle then.
Because then mid jungle 2v2 is the point. When self fight, so this is where it's going to the playstyle.
It's weird.
When Hawks have won games,
I think Dash is better than Ramune.
It is when Tussle and Ramune have got things happening.
That
is when they have won games.
I disagree. I think that's Tussle. I don't think that's Ramune. I think that's Tussle.
It's Ramune.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, Ramune broke my heart when he just played that dog crap Ari game.
Yeah, it was.
It was so bad.
But it is effectively like.
We are talking about the worst team here.
So the other thing is, I think it's a caveat to point out that I think there is actually a lot of talent on the Hawks.
So much.
But the thing is, my problem is not necessarily the talent; it's the synergy. Because this is where I think, like, is Dasher a mechanically good player? Oh yes, we've seen him pull off some pretty good things on things like Aurelia on the gameplay. Yeah, exactly.
True.
He's done a Camille versus Ebby. But the thing is, the team synergy and coordination is absolutely shocking. They hit the mid game, and they.
So how is Ebby fixing that?
Right. So this is why it works. I think is that Pooh and Honey work because they are quite safe. Largely, they hold down the 2v2, and they.
Except they die every other game, but that's beside the point.
Pooh doesn't.
Who does? He normally dies because of Honey.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Honey on the back foot is a difficult problem, and we've been over that before. But effectively, what Softbank Hawks quite like doing is they love their 1-3-1s. They love their Lucians and their Aurelias, where they get to play the 1-3-1, but they don't pull it off particularly well.
If they get Lucian also.
Yeah, Dasher in particular is notorious for not playing side lane vision and kind of map awareness very well. The mechanics are good, the actual play style is not. And it's a synergy problem with the Hawks that is making them crumble every game, 10 to 20 minutes. It is really problematic. And I think their mid-jungle 2v2 is pretty good. I think Tussle and Ramune is fine. But they have got a problem when they can't rely on their bot lane to kind of carry when other lanes are kind of being dumped on for whatever reason because they're playing disrespectfully.
Okay.
And so what I think you do is you bring in someone like Ebby, who is by far our strongest he's our strongest laner. He's got a great champion pool, does a lot of what Dasher does, but so much better, and plays the map. There is no better top laner at playing the map than Ebby. He is so good at 1-3-1 and teamfight. And I think if you give Tussle Ebby to play around, and Tussle's a great Elise player, for example, I think you have Ramone on a roaming pick who can offer some more agency there. Pooh and Honey just have to be safe because they're going to be playing around their solo lanes and they're kind of aggressive, really volatile carry picks. And then that actually, if Ebby gets the lead, he's less likely to throw it away. Or if he is being kind of taken down, it's for a really high cost somewhere else. Whereas I think Dasher, he'll go for the flashy plays, but that's a flash in the pan. He burns out real quick.
Okay. I disagree completely, obviously, but we're allowed to disagree. That's a good part of this podcast. So my thing is you have to keep Dasher, because I think Dasher's also just actually been a phenomenal. Because let me say my point. I think Dash has actually been great when he's been allowed to play his kind of play style. It's not always happened. He's also got history with playing with Tussle, both on USG. So I kind of like keeping players that have at least a little bit of. Oh no, they didn't cross over, did they?
They were on USG
2019. They played USG together. They played on USG together. So I like keeping Dasher and Tussle together. For that same reason, I want to keep Ramone and Tussle together because again, they played on Rampage together. So I like that we've got three players who kind of have a bit of a unit. Obviously, Dasher and Tussle are both Korean. Obviously, Tussle has played in Japan for so long, he's now a citizen. And that's a whole thing that we're going to eventually get into in the Pentagram Rampage explanation. So I think it's these three. Also, Ramone historically has been one of the best mid laners, so you can't get rid of him in my eyes. I think you need to leave a season. I also think Dasher has shown when he's played on other teams that he's actually a very good player. He just needs a bit of time to adjust, and Tussle as well. I think these three are players that need time to adjust. And then it falls down to then you only have to give it to two rookies on their opening split. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Honey, and I just want to put a player who basically can come in next to him, who is a Korean, who has played in the region for a very long time, but he is now a Japanese citizen, who can come over and say, hey, don't worry, let's do this together. I picked Vivid because Vivid is one of the players who has played in the region for so long. He can play very adaptive play styles, and I think he could foster Honey into potentially the player that when he was signed to the SoftBank Hawks, the player that they thought he was going to be. Because I don't think another rookie talent is really going to foster that. It's sad because you could also just switch it out and put in a really good bot laner, and then you maybe foster Pooh. So
that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a flip of the coin. I'm slightly biased to Honey. We all know that already, so I'm not going to kick my boy. So then it came to Pooh, and
So can I counter that briefly in terms of the reason I went for what I said, because I get what you guys are saying, that I totally do, because this was my issue, right? Because it basically is where do we find another win condition?
I don't think no. I don't think you need to find another win condition. I think you need to let this team also just kind of get time to play, because this is their third split ever as a unit.
The issue,
and they looked good when they got outright skill.
Yeah,
which was the first few weeks, and then teams actually started getting good together, and then they got flattened.
Yeah, exactly. So my issue is actually, the thing is, my issue is not necessarily the talent on the Hawks; it's the play style. And I don't think changing out Pooh changes the play style. I still think you have the issues with Dasher getting obliterated stupidly in 1vXs in a side lane. I still think you have the issue of Ramone and Tussle, if they don't get ahead, the rest of the team not knowing what to do.
Oh, what my logic is, you put Gango in and you just turn everything up to 11. No one has an option.
I mean, fuck it, why not?
No, I can see so that's an option, right? You just go, screw it. Every lane is going to go hyper aggressive, and
everything's on fire, but you're burning too.
Yeah. Whereas I think actually it's okay, so if the issue is that actually what we're trying to set up is consistently being shut down by bad vision play and lack of kind of lack of order in the map. I think adding Ebby in to do what Dasher does just better makes a lot of sense.
See, I think there's other problems going on, so that's why I didn't come to the same point of view as you. That's it. I want to go on to our next team at some point soon. Also,
I just want to say, just quickly from my point of view, because I haven't really spoken too much.
Yeah,
Ebby over Dasher is always going to be an upgrade. I don't think that's
obviously
ever
not.
going to be a problem, because Ebby is going to be an upgrade over anyone in the league.
Outside of maybe like Appermen at the moment, which is weird.
Yeah.
But I still think he's an upgrade.
There are arguments to be made, right?
Exactly.
And I think,
Paz is also up there, and Ray Farkey.
So I obviously, we look at the Hawks and we're kind of like, well, I mean, switching out any of these guys has probably got a good chance to make them better than they were, right?
Yeah, can't
That's
hurt.
why you can only argue about it so much. Obviously, Reyna has been really high on a lot of our lists. I think you're right. Obviously, Reyna has been alongside another rookie AD carry this split in Archie. So maybe there's something to be said about that. And of course, Gango. Woo! Let's go kill some people.
Yeah, just fuck it, just rip it out and just go for it.
And I think the real core of the problem here is that like there's so many things wrong with the Hawks that we just don't know what to do with them.
Hell, fuck's sake, put Corporal in there. Maybe that helps it.
You could do whatever. Honestly, you could do so many different things to the team, but like they just looked very dysfunctional when they were going wrong. You know, there was this
there is a lack of synergy,
but like if you guys want to really watch a game to really prove this, I think there were some games in week 5.
Week 5, yeah.
No, it's week 6 when they played the Galio comps.
Oh god, that was
they just showed they just had no. Yeah, it was the Galio comp against Sengoku in week 6.
Oh, and they got destroyed.
They just didn't know what to do. They pressed all their ultimates, but they're in the wrong order, in the wrong position. It's like, well, whatever. And sometimes it's not a player thing, and there's only so much we can talk about it.
Yeah, synergy. End of. How do you change it?
So, our next team is a team I actually really love talking about. The more we talk about this region, the more I love talking about this team because they're so different to everybody else. It's the Rascal Jesters. Yeah. In the top lane, we have Kog. In the jungle, we have Hachamecha. In the mid lane, we have Ninja. As our carry, we have Art. And in the bot lane, we have support. In the bot lane, as their support... God. As their support, it's Vivid. I've said his name about 5 or 6 times already in our podcast, and I couldn't do it. Initia1ise, it's your turn to go first, sir.
I think you switch out Kog for Ebby. And I think...
He's taking the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, he's so tough.
But it is! But the reason is, I think Kog's actually pretty good, but he's kind of been the quietest member of Rascal Jesters. He's been a role player largely. We have seen one killer Kennen game from him where he leveled Appermen, put him like 0 and 5, like
that was week 7 as well. Sengoku, that was a weird one.
Yeah, like it was like you watch sort of Appermen come back to lane to run into Kennen to die to run it. It was not cool. It was one of those questions.
It was not normal Appermen things.
Well, it kind of was. Actually, it was Appermen playing his playstyle, but his playstyle doesn't work when you are 12 levels behind and actually got like a dagger to like the full nuclear arsenal of a Kennen.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as what Ebby did to Dasher.
Oh. Yeah,
what Ebby did to Unyan in that
one. That one as well.
Exactly.
Right, so we're saying put the best player in, get a take a good player out, and just win the lane.
So it's basically it's another player who can. Ebby is a good role player if he has to be. He does play weak side well if he has to, especially if you know Art and Vivid are gonna go a bit nuts. But he's also another he's another point of pressure if you want him to be. It broadens the Rascal Jesters playbook because I don't think they necessarily currently have the ability to play through top lane. Really, at least not consistently. We saw the one Nico game from Kog. Remember where he kind of ran into.
They won that game, but it wasn't.
They did, and he found a way to come back into the game, but like Kog has had his issues.
Okay.
And I think adding an Ebby teleports well, plays the lane well, can play
blah blah blah. Good player.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So just for that game, we glazed over it. That's game 1 of the quarterfinals. Rascal versus CGO.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Nymaera. Yes, I will put that in the show notes. I'll probably ask you later at the end to actually ping that to me. For myself, I went for also other low-hanging fruit, but I actually have a little bit of justification. I took out Ninja. And I put in Aria.
Yeah.
Because Hachamecha Aria combo, because it's free real estate. I did it the other way around for CGA, and now I'm like, I'm gonna do it again.
We're doing the same thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just free real estate. You just put these two together and they just win every time. And I also think, and I don't know about you, Nymaera, I actually think Hachimecha fixes Cog as well.
Yeah, I mean,
to a degree.
I think that Cog, he's not a weakness.
He's just quiet. He plays a great role player. He's a great role player.
Like when you've got Art and then if you had like Ardia on the team, like sometimes you just need someone to just play the role, just play it.
Yeah.
I mean, so I have one worry with this change, and it's the fact that Ninja plays a lot of like role play team fight picks.
Yeah.
Plays like
that was my issue.
He plays Rumble and stuff, and like Ardia doesn't always do that. He plays the hyper mobile damage stuff.
True.
But I mean, he's just such a star power pick, and he always wins lane, and he always does all this other stuff that and he's very consistent at doing that. That I just feel like you have him and Art on the same team, like that's going to be explosive, and it's going to be so fun.
With Hachimecha backing him up, and then Cog getting arguably, in a weird way, less attention. Which actually,
because you have to keep an eye on Arya. Yeah.
Oh well, and obviously the bot lane as well. Like you can't.
The other option was Ebby though.
Can I put a question to you guys then?
Sure.
So I kind of totally agree that I think Arya would be a sensible pick. Like, there's no doubt in my mind the man's a monster makes a lot of sense.
And the Hachimecha stuff is nice.
And Ninja is, mercurial, is the way we'll put it. Sometimes brilliant, like in a weird mad scientist way, and sometimes just like, oh dear.
It's also one of the best bot lanes, so it's like you can't really switch them out.
Exactly.
But that's my issue, is that how does Arya play if Hachimecha still has to give up the attention he's kind of after?
I mean, he plays with Gango.
Yeah, but does Gango get attention? But does Gango get much attention?
I mean,
he's a mad scientist.
Arya plays with Yoshi, who basically doesn't know sometimes what he needs to be if he gets slightly behind. That's so he can very much almost play a game without a jungler, and when you get a jungler that already knows how to help you out, I think that just improves.
And the other thing is that, like Art is the player to move into the mid lane, and then the mid lane goes up to the side lane.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's
not like it's a problem if you're playing with two really high resource solo laners. I think because like they just want to take the same solo lane. If you're gonna have like a high resource AD carry, he just goes mid lane eventually.
I actually said in my notes that putting Arya in this team might make it a pro team. Like legit, I would have very high hopes for the Rascal Jester lineup if Arya was in that lineup.
Yeah, they would just be mad scientists, a lot of them.
Yes, they would.
Yes,
they would.
Time.
So we got another one of us where we join up again, and then Initia1ise doing his back-to-back Ebby pick. Got to happen at some point.
Yeah. I think I totally get an Arya pick there. In fact, now I'm thinking about it, I can see Arya being a really solid pick. But
so
I think my question was what improves on what's there and not changes the playstyle too much. And I think Ebby in offers more, doesn't take the playstyle away, which I think Ninja's often the key of their playstyle.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to our almost penultimate team. Sengoku Gaming. In the top lane, wait, penultimate is actually the second to last.
Penultimate is
I did it correctly. I was like, is this our penultimate?
Penultimate is the right one.
Our penultimate team is Sengoku Gaming. In the top lane, they have Appa Men. In the jungle, we have Blank. In the mid lane, we have Pyrion. In the bot lane, we have Yutori Muashi. And as support, we have Enti. Now, on my notes, I've said no change because I actually love this roster and how they've currently been playing across their last few games, especially in their current form. They are looking absurd. However, upon reflection and an hour into our podcast, Enti is the only player I'm kind of thinking about. The problem is, I love bot lane duos, and I don't think I think if you take out Enti, Yutori Muashi, some of his playstyle power is lost through that. Exactly. So I'm going to go back to saying no change. I would actually not change. I'm going to go against the whole idea of this podcast episode and say, actually, I like it how it is. I want you two gentlemen to see what you said.
I very nearly said that about DFM, actually, because I was like, well,
I was in a similar situation.
Actually, do you change? If you change this, does it get better or worse? And there's something to be said about Rascal Jester too, right? There's a very fine balance.
Yes.
Yeah, There is a weird machine for Askel Jester. If you pull out the wrong lever, it all falls apart, and you're like, "Oh my days, what happened?"
It's like if anyone plays Warhammer 40,000,
they are the orcs.
So the orcs have a weird thing with technology because they're actually just very stupid. So like when everything's all high tech and stuff, the whole idea is that like a orc would make a gun by like strapping like a piece of wood to a piece of dynamite, and by all means,
solid
should not
solid way to try and make it work. I like it.
Yeah, sure, but it's like there's no physical way that should work. But because they believe so much that it will work, it does. There's something to be said about just don't question the process.
Go faster, strikes literally make their things go faster.
If you believe in your dreams, do it. Just do it. All right.
They're just so annoying.
So, Nymaera, what's your change? Assuming there is a change.
I would put an Ebby.
Yeah.
But with an outside choice. I thought about this just before we came live. Might put Paz in.
I actually like Paz a lot more than Ebby in that spot.
In some ways. It's just for me, Apperman does two things. He split pushes and he team fights. Ebby does exactly the same things. Slightly different champion pool. I think that
slightly different play style in a way.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about Paz being a really good weak side player, Ebby being a really good strong side player.
That's what I was thinking there.
And that was why I kind of came up with that.
I like the Paz pick a little bit more. I also think picking Ebby's low hanging fruit, frankly.
Yeah.
No, but I had him as an outside thing for the last one, but I hadn't nominated him yet. So.
I'm not giving.
You say that like you didn't pick the #1 mid laner in the league. Go, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I did it one time. You've done it twice already.
Yeah, I know.
And you're probably going number 3. So I mean, you're. Oh God! Did you even try this, or did you 5 minutes before the podcast go fuck it, Ebby every time?
Yeah, no, so like
just open up the prawn cocktail, just.
Here is the deal, right? Like, my question was like, okay, so what can we change? You don't want to touch Torimayashi. I think he's brilliant. It would be weird to change him. You could change Enti to put someone else in there with him, but they've got good synergy, and I think maybe you could add Vivid in because there's X synergy in there. But I think it's kind of a side grade is what you end up with.
At this point, it probably would be. Yeah.
You could change Pyrian out for Arya. But then you change the play style.
No, you massively. Can't. That's different team.
And I sometimes
I'm not sure Blank would play well around him.
And I don't know whether exactly.
That's my point as well.
But then again, you remember this is Blank who played alongside Faker, who
didn't always look great alongside that though. Let me just say.
But they didn't always look great alongside that. And there's a lot of synergy because Blank and Pyrian are both XT1 members, so they know what's going on.
Remember they had to sub out Faker when Blank was in the roster briefly because he didn't know how to play around him.
Yeah,
and they subbed in Pyrian.
Yeah, you could bring in Boogie, and maybe you suddenly start playing around Apperman as a strong side.
I mean,
I think you change, but you change the playstyle so heavily. I don't know whether that actually makes them better or worse. And I actually would potentially lean towards worse. I think they play the controlled objective setup, vision control style of game so well. I think it would be not necessarily the best change. So then your option is okay. I'm looking at Apperman and I'm saying, what happens when Apperman gets put in the dumpster? And
which doesn't happen very often, frankly.
Once in a blue moon, but
it's happened.
It happens once every 4 rounds, basically. To be fair to him.
Yeah, sometimes, but I've also seen him the team has won in spite of him in the early weeks sometimes.
But they've also won purely because of him.
Yeah, so my issue then is okay, so Apperman from behind can be a problem sometimes, and we've seen it before. Again, I allude to the COD game, which was not so great. We've seen games like.
But that was the whole team got flattened.
So game 2 of round 2, the series versus DFM, so Ebby versus Apperman. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Game 2.
Yeah.
But
so then my thing is, I think if you switch in Ebby, I think he does a lot of what Apperman does, but I think Ebby plays from behind so much better. He's much better about finding ways back into a game.
He doesn't fall behind pretty much ever, Ebby.
We've seen one NAR game where that's happened.
My big problem with you taking out Apperman is I get the feeling, and this is just my personal feeling on this, I think you take a lot of the heart away of Sengoku at the moment in this lineup. Maybe. I feel like Yutori Muashi and Apperman are kind of a lot of the raw heart. Pyrian and Blank, arguably, are just playing SKT Fun Times Reunion Fun Times.
Well, yeah.
I think they're integral to the team, obviously. But I think Appaman and Yutori with NT are a lot of the heart of where I've got. Whenever I think of them, I always think of Appaman and Yutori.
Also, you lose Appaman's hair.
You
Yeah,
do, and that's a
exactly.
big payoff. Like, do you
what's
really
the
want to lose
point in
that?
Supporting them at that point.
I mean-
You know, that is the reason we're here.
I mean, the other option I was considering was Ray Farkey.
Oh,
Which
shit.
basically
The second best top laner.
Yeah.
All right.
Where actually,
He still
because
is for me, actually,
yeah,
frankly.
because I've also seen Ray Farkey, like, he's done what Appaman's done on Gangplank. You know, he's done very similar things, and he plays a similar play style. But he's also just got like he's just got that kind of mercurial ball to the wall thing. That both
Ray
of them
Farkey
do,
would probably
so
be
I'd
happy
say.
not to have to carry a game for.
You know what? You know what? For the Hawks, I should have switched out Dasher for Ray Farkey.
Yeah, because I
should've
think
done.
Ray Farkey for Dash wouldn't have been a bad call either.
That would have been
I-
hilarious.
yeah,
That would have been
I- yeah.
hilarious.
Can
Yeah,
I-
So the reason that exactly.
Can I put it to you? Obviously, I went for no change. That's why I'm
Yeah.
playing devil's advocate the whole way through. Obviously, the only one I was leaning towards was NT because I think NT is technically in
I
the
don't wanna
weird
mess with
spot, but
2v2.
you don't want to
I
mess
don't
with
wanna mess with
2v2, and it's a weird
Yeah,
place, right?
exactly.
If anything, I'd actually like to have a sub, but we can't do that because that's not in
Oh,
part of our
sub-jungler.
rules.
Boogie is a sub jungler.
No,
Oh
because
my
you
days.
can't get rid of blank Pyrion combo. That's just
No, but because Blank is like maybe the greatest of all time substitutes.
oh, okay.
Remember,
So you
it's
just
a
always
support.
have Boogie in the main, and you just put blank in support
So
and
in
as the
rest of
sub.
five, you start. So it's basically like
You
peanut.
start
butter
Boogie, and
with
if it
different
goes bad, you just bring in blank to clean
Exactly.
up.
Yeah, because he has the contingency plan. He analyzes them and comes in. Anyway, but
So-
that'll be a best option.
So, gentlemen, would you
Okay.
join me if given the option of no change, or would you still?
Yeah, man. I still think there has
Sure.
been some weaknesses there. I think he's had some he's still got like ridiculously high ISO deaths. He's got the lowest KDA for a reason. And sometimes that's kind of been a necessity, and sometimes
I didn't want
justification.
justification, Sam. I just
Yeah,
wanted a yes
I
or
think
no.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So
I
I
think
think
I,
Appaman, yeah.
I think Ebby would make any team
Sure.
better.
Yeah.
So I think I would change, but I accept the risks going with. that.
Yes,
Okay.
that's kind of I agree.
Good.
That's exactly it.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen, we've hit our final team that we would consider making a swap out for. And this final team is V3 Esports. Now, it comes back around to Nymaera to begin us
Who
for their
got-
swap.
Again, I have 2 written down.
Rip it. 3, 2, 1. Now.
Gadiadu.
Oh!
Gadiadu.
Okay. Interesting.
My other
Initialize.
option was Ebby. My other option was Ebby.
Ramone.
Oh, that's a really good.
You
point.
motherfucker, you stole it from me! That was my thing! That was my thing, you fucking yes!
And
Oh my
I can also see it. The thing is,
I
it's
think
also-
that I think that fixes everything Ramune personally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I
I
actually like the Gadiadu pick as well.
It's
Yeah,
the
I
same
feel
kind of
what
thing.
I
It is, it is.
Gadiadu is just like a slightly more consistent. He's still an aggressive player in a lot of ways, and you can't put in Adia because of the import restrictions.
Yes,
I
yes,
did
we have to
think
pick a
about-
Japanese
I
mid
did-
laner.
Yeah, I did think about putting in Ebby, but I think of that. Yeah, I thought about Ebby for Paz, but I don't think that. I think
I think
the payoffs for having a really good Ramone or a really good Gadiadu in for Ace.
it's just night and day
It's
different
pretty
between
huge,
Paz
actually.
and Ebby, which obviously is an upgrade,
Again,
but like,
I think Ebby improves any team.
but then Paz has still been very core to a lot of what V3
Yeah, I think,
has
yes,
had.
he's only played a couple of picks, but his team fighting from ahead has been.
Yeah, and I mean,
absolutely
he's
monstrous.
basically been the support for Boogie, so I mean, it works,
Yeah,
right?
in a lot of ways, yeah.
And I also think Ramune, I don't know if initially I saw about this, Ramune wants to get in people's face when he can. Boogie
Yeah.
is the king of getting in people's face, outside of maybe Arya, who wants to contest that. So, I mean, if you've got the most...
Import instructions again. So.
Exactly, so like, obviously that's the dream, to just have a Boogie and Arya together, but you can't do that until Arya's stayed another year in Japan, and then applies to become a resident, which...
Yeah.
I mean, at
He
the
may
rate
not.
he's going, he might not even have time to do that because he might be over to NA. Who knows at this point?
Career's getting franchised and the money's going up.
Oh,
Might get a
yeah.
chance to go back and say, look, I'm a challenger player, but I get more money. There's that
And I'm
option
also
there.
probably just the best in Japan at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe you should.
So-
Maybe someone should take me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all went for mid lane. Why did we go
Mhm.
for mid lane?
Ace is the weak point.
Ace on a great day has shown some really good stuff, but that's been like a fifth of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So his playoffs have been good for him, but like I power ranked him really low coming to week.
I did
So it
too.
shouldn't be skills. But yeah, he's just not consistent enough, really. And his high points are really good, but the high points compared to like Ramino's high points, still pretty decent level. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I rated him slightly higher than both of you. I actually thought he's played half decent.
He's had a really good playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. His playoffs especially has warped my view somewhat, and I'm really acknowledging that. But like, I still think he's better than Rocky, and I still think he's probably. I don't think he's better than probably Ramune and Gadiadu at the moment, because those two gentlemen have actually been. Well, Ramune is a weird one, right? I'm just assuming Ramune is just on a kind of a dumpster at the moment. And
yeah, he's on a bit of a bad streak.
I'm trying to pretend that this isn't happening for Ramune right now. I'm just thinking that he's experiencing the blip, as one of our mutual friends called this period of time that we're in. I think he's just in the blip. So he'll once he comes out of the blip, start winning again.
Maybe.
And that's why I think I'd switch him up for Ace personally.
Also, Ramune playing with Boogie just sounds great.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Shows any more thoughts on it?
So, I think as well. So the reason I think Ace plays a role on the team, and that normally is he plays a mean Nocturne, he plays a mean Syndra, he plays a mean Rumble. That sometimes feels a little bit like it. We've had that conversation about where he's at with his Jason, his Zoe, and some things. Where we've raised some question marks about actually how much is he accomplishing on those picks, even when they do win. And a lot of what Ace wants to do in terms of Boogie is going to go dive bot lane at 5 minutes 10, and there is going to be an engage down here. And we're going to watch Paz teleport down on Aatrox, and he's going to join. Ace is going to roam down and join that. Who does that really well at the minute? And that is Ramune, because if you look at what the Hawks, when they're kind of aware that their side lanes are on fire, it's Ramune.
I mean, everywhere's on fire, really.
Yeah, exactly. But it's Ramune on something like the LeBlanc on these picks, which push and then find their way out of mid lane to exacerbate pressure elsewhere that really causes damage for V3. They just find ways to snowball, following Boogie's lead to dive to bot lane. I think Ramune would join up with that really well. I think there's a lot of experience there. Which I think helps.
So
I also think that
out of interest,
Boogie does a lot of what Tussle wants to do, but better, and I think that helps in terms of playstyle synergy.
If you wanted to kind of keep maybe the playstyle that V3 have been playing, which is a bit more passive and just supporting Boogie, right? Why don't you put in someone like Cyros instead?
Oh, because I don't think they've been playing passive. I think they snowball super hard. I think adding someone in who can join Boogie in whatever rampages he wants to on the side lanes, it helps a lot with them.
No, they fight super aggressively around dragons. They love doing that.
But I think if you tell Cyros to do that, I think he can.
Yeah, he would be a good holding pick. I can see that.
I think he plays supports, right? He plays Karma basically in the mid lane. So I mean, he's definitely all about just going, all right, let's let him do it, and just running with him.
The really funny thing is, on my notes and on the notepad I got, V3 supposed to put Ebi or Gariadu, and I put in brackets, why not Cyros? So that was a talking point. Why not Cyros? I just hadn't realized that in my head. I'm just like, why not Cyros? And for me, it is literally just like a, it is a playstyle thing in a lot of ways, and Cyros is just a little bit too. He likes to play the game a bit slower, and that just doesn't work with
Boogie
in particular.
It's only Boogie, really.
I mean, Reyna likes playing pretty aggressively too in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I was half thinking actually maybe try and put a really lane dominant AD carry in there too, someone like Art or
But Archer's been so good.
Double down on the strength though. Like Archer's been good. In fact, he's had a great rookie split. But imagine putting
he's that rookie of the split. So
exactly.
But if you maybe put Art in there and go, okay, I think that's probably a bit of a step up. Do you just increase the strength they already have? I can see that being an option too. I think potentially it's a bit of a risk.
Okay. I could see that. Okay, so we have gone through every single team, and our podcast, if we wanted to end it now, would be our shortest ever by over an hour. Almost.
Man, that's kind of amazing.
So I want to do something very quickly just to fill a little bit of this void. A little bit of this void. And I want to pitch this idea to you, gentlemen. Right now, live on cast, we go through each of our picks very briefly, and we just say who we think is actually the best one out of our 3 decisions. Yes, I like changes, and then so we place a vote. We say who our picks were, and then we vote as a group who we think would actually be the overall best pick. Like, just we're like, this would definitely make the team better. Less memes, less maybe, oh, that's interesting, hypothetical talking, and actually just this, and we just vote very raw off the cuff, and then have a conversation. So, our first team is Axis.
Okay.
I picked Hyde for Gango.
I picked Rascal. I picked Art for Hyde.
I picked Art for Hyde.
There's 2 votes for Art, 1 for Gango.
I think you guys are right, by the way. I'm pretty happy to say that. We are all along the same lines already, so I'm happy to go for Art. I think Gango had points that you both agreed with, but I'm more than happy to concede and go for Art.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think anyone's picks have been bad. Of all of them, none of them made me go, not sure about that. Actually, all of them are like, I can see that. Put it that way. So this is quite interesting.
I mean, it's interesting. We've got a few doubles. So, I mean, we all paired with each other once. So, I mean, it's definitely interesting. We're all along that same line as Nymaera hinted at earlier. When we talk about this league together, and we're basically in somewhat, we're in a thought bubble together. So I mean, it's natural that happened. So for Burning Core, obviously I wanted to rip out once and put in Hachimecha.
I put in Ramune for Rocky.
I went for Utoromayashi for Yuhi.
So I'm not really willing to budge at the moment. So
you put in Hachimecha. Sorry, you put.
I ripped out once, and I'm putting in Hachimecha.
Sam, you put in Utoromayashi.
For you here.
I actually might agree with Sam. As much as I thought it'd be really interesting for Ramune, just having that late game insurance is huge.
So who for Yuhi? Sorry.
Utoromayashi.
See, that just feels like low hanging fruit, but I guess.
It's for me. It's like if it's raw value. It's
raw value. But it's so like,
I get it.
Yeah, all right, fine. I concede.
Spicy doesn't make you good. Spice doesn't always make good teams. Just make things spicy.
Like, again, we discussed this, right? It's like if you take out once, you change the playstyle, and that might be really valuable in its own way.
True.
But then, like,
I also think Ray Farkey just becomes actually in more spots. But like, I actually just get the best AD carry in and just win.
But then it's just like your late game stuff is just incredible, and Burning Core found it hard to do stuff while they're there. He changed that.
True.
Yeah, I also don't think Once and Proud would have to force as hard if they've got someone they know can be consistent behind them.
You could arguably someone like Art as well.
You temple Once that way, a bit that way. You pull the reins back on the charging Darius just a bit.
Fair enough. So for CGA, so we're going for that pick as well. That is going to be for Burning Core. We're taking out Yuhi and we're putting in Sengoku's Utoromayashi. For Crest Gaming Act, I wanted to take out Yoshi and put in Hachimecha. Yes, I went for the back-to-back Hachimecha. So we've got 2 votes currently for Yoshi out, Hachimecha in. Initia1ise, who did you go for again?
I went Grendel for Reina, but I totally get why you would go for the mid-jungle 2v2 and stick Hachimecha in there. So I'm like, I think I've got a decent choice as well, but I totally. I totally see that's a very reasonable plan that would work pretty well.
At its best, obviously, like, Grendel at his worst compared to Reina at his best, that is pretty huge difference. Whereas like Hachimecha at his worst compared to like Yoshi at his best, like you do the same thing for the jungle and it's like actually I mean that's pretty huge in its own right too. Yoshi's had some really dull moments. So I think,
but he's had some popping moments. So it's...
he has. But for me, Hachimecha is just like he is just Mr. Consistent. And again, the idea I'm not going to budge on this one. Hachimecha is. I still think that's the best change for me.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fine. I totally get it. Plus more things for Arya.
Yeah, which just means better things.
and also, Grendel has had some, like, his Rakan is actually very good. If they just pick Rakan, I'm pretty happy with how he plays.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just give that man Rakan every game. And if he gets banned, then put him on Morgana, I think is his other comfort pick that we've been... Yeah, Thresh as well. Yeah, but Thresh is just always good, right? So, okay, we found that one. Is CGA's Yoshi out, and we're putting in Rascal Jester's Hachimecha in. For DF I wanted to take out Steel and put in blank and Nymaera.
So did I.
So I wanted to put in Gadiadu for Seros. You guys wanted to put in blank for Steel.
Yeah,
You did.
Initia1ise joined me on my
did.
decision, or did I join you? No, I said it first this time.
Yeah, I joined you. Yeah.
Yes, it's the other way round for V3. We joined each other again.
Yeah.
So yes.
This was a hard one, at least with a 1-for-1 switch. This legal.
Yeah, no, I like this one. I'm like, it's not a clean budge for me either because the reasons I picked Gadiadu, I think would
Majority wins. Majority wins.
I don't think I don't. Shit.
You don't get to pick because I'm not moving off my part, so you got to try and get your brother, and that's even harder.
Yeah, I don't think I would budge because I did think about blank versus Steel. It's really close. I wouldn't budge though. But you still win. But like, I definitely see it. It's just It's
So
weird.
just so the listeners are fully aware, who was your pick again?
It was Gadiadu for Seros. So Axe's mid laner. Gadiadu in for Seros.
And me and Initia1ise decided that we would want Steel out, and we wanted to put in blank in their place, and that is Sengoku's blank. Well, Sengoku's blank, yes.
Yeah.
SoftBank Hawks was arguably our biggest talking point for this podcast because very strong feelings, and honestly, when you're talking about the last place team, it's a lot easier to talk about them for ages because there's so much that you can change because, I mean, they've got so many holes in them. It is interesting that Burning Core was less of that, but I think that's an interesting point.
They're such a lopsided team though. They have some really good points, whereas like Hawks, there's quite a lot of
Hawks is like
stuff.
talent, but it's all on fire.
Yeah,
So
no synergy. There is no synergy.
So I went Hawks / everyone in my notes, and then I went Pooh for Vivid. So that was my one. Nymaera, who did you go for again?
I went Gango for Honey.
Okay.
I went. I did work the opposite side. I got rid of Dash and put in Ebby.
So
Oh, this is gonna take a while to reach.
this is one that's going to take a while. So I already have my very strong opinions, and I refuse to put Ebby in the team.
Yeah.
So
I don't think removing Pooh changes any of the underlying playstyle problems. I think you've still got the same problems with Dash getting caught in the top
sure,
side.
but my reasoning for
change anything.
changing that wasn't a playstyle thing; it was a completely unrelated thing. So we're discussing different points at that point.
Sorry, Sam, remind me of your one again. Was it Ebby?
Yeah, because I think he would do a lot of what Dasher does in terms of being aggressive and pressure if he has to, but I just think he doesn't get caught anywhere near as much and plays weak side better because Dasher cannot play weak side.
Who did you pick again, Nymaera? You picked
Gango. I picked Gango.
Gango.
Gango for Honey.
Yeah,
I'd be more
I
willing
put
to
a plus up on him.
switch to that one, honestly, because
Yeah.
I think the bot lane is the problem, as I said.
I think that Dasher has not been. He's been quiet, but he has had some really good games. I think his champion pool's a bit weird. And
Yeah, that's true. Dash is
I
a
like-
problem, definitely, but
I think, yeah.
I think you can fix him.
I think
just
in
don't like
some
the way-
ways you can.
Yeah,
But we've only seen 7 weeks from this guy. Like, I think
I get it. I get it. I'm like, Dasher has not been the most impressive top laner. I'd kind of put him towards the.
But
not
Ramene's been
the
arguably one of
worst.
the worst mid laners, and we're not
Ramene's
switching him
been
out.
on and off. But I kind of feel like if you play with Gango, who has shown that he can, he's worthy of carrying.
Yes.
You like putting your trust into carry in the late game. Playing and also like having Pooh just being like the straight up bodyguard. I'm like that might work.
He was very much the bodyguard.
Yeah,
He's
it
got
could be
actually.
awful.
He was in one of our best moments, actually,
Well,
where he
yeah,
fully
that's
saved
right.
Honey from everything playing Braum.
saved Ramane on the Azir as well.
Yes, he
So
did.
for me, that'd be kind of like a worse version of CGA if you put Gango in, but it's still better than what they are.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is like, does that actually change their fundamental issues in the playstyle?
I think it does more than Ebby.
Really? Because I think that actually.
I don't think
means
just
that
putting
they're
in the best top laner fixes a lot of the problems if the rest of the team's on fire.
So, Sam,
My argument is I think
Sam,
it
hear me
does.
out here. Sam, the Hawks really
Yeah.
like to play around early game, and a lot of the time that comes around dragons, and a lot of where that comes from is bot lane priority. I think Gango gives you that.
Okay, I see that.
Put
Yeah,
it that
yeah,
way. I think that top lane is sometimes a bit of an inconsequential role when you.
It's an island, right?
yeah.
So
So-
I'm gonna stick with Gango. I
Okay.
think.
I'm going
After
to
a bit of
switch
consideration.
from
Okay,
Pooh
that's fair.
to get rid of my boy Honey, but that's because I already identified bot lane was the problem for me.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
think
willing
that's-
to
put it this way. I
lean
think
over.
if you keep Honey in, who would you switch in to make the biggest difference? If you kept Pooh in and like play to Pooh's good parts rather than try and get him to play something that he can't do, like engage supports or something.
Yeah.
Who would that work best with? probably Gango.
Probably.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Also has a mean Zaya.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna disagree, if only because I think if the Hawks have shown they want to play this kind of aggressive side lane style, then switching in a player who's not going to get caught every time immediately stops them bleeding as much gold in the early game.
I think if you want to do what you're saying, Sam, the correct pick is actually Rayfaki, because Rayfaki can play aggressive and also plays that very aggressive all in or nothing kind of play style where he knows he has to carry. Ebby is adaptable. It's not fully leaning into the team's dynamic in my sense. Outside of obviously Ramune and Ebby combo.
I worry that Rayfaki would fall into a similar hole that Dasher does, though, in that he cannot play weak side.
But things are like, I think if you're gonna pick a weak side top laner, maybe you pick Paz at that point.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I said later on.
But then is Ebby just an upgraded Paz? And
that's what I'm like. I mean, that was my problem with Sengoku, right? But
yeah.
I'm gonna stick with Gango.
But yeah, I'm going to join.
I can understand you guys. I do disagree. I think though.
No, that's fine, and it is a healthy disagreement. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
That Dasher is worth a question mark. Too.
So with majority rules, we are taking out Honey from the Hawks, and we are putting in Crest Gaming Axe Gango for him. For Rascal Jester, myself, and I believe I remember Nymaera, because I said his favorite Lord and Savior, we took out Ninja for Arya, and my justification was obviously Hachimecha, Team God, blah, blah, blah. Okay, is that just is this the easy one?
I said Ebby, and then I kind of heard you guys go Arya. I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the other best player. Yeah, all right.
I understand that you potentially take out that last block in the Jenga tower that is the precarious weirdness.
The other thing is that
but
I actually think Ninja is closer to Arya than Kog'Kog is to Ebby, because actually if you look at the unique champion picks in mid lane, Arya is like one of the highest. There are some picks which and stuff.
But Ninja has the most.
But would you ever see Arya playing Nautilus?
Or not Ziggs? No, you wouldn't.
I mean, he would play Ziggs if Ziggs was broken.
I mean, was there an argument for Seros here?
No.
Yeah, there's
no, not for me. No. Arya's just the god. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure, like, Seros...
Or Gadiadu. I would rather put Gadiadu there.
Seros, yeah, maybe. Yeah, something like that. But again, he doesn't really like playing the Ornn either. So like,
Rascal Jester liked, remember, to be very adaptable in pick and ban phase, and Seros does not allow that.
They like to be really weird.
Yeah, they do. Which I guess Seros does allow.
Like putting the AD carry... Like putting their Ziggs bot lane, but it's their mid laner playing it, and then the Lucian is mid lane, and they've got their AD carry playing it mid.
And they win the game. It's like, okay, sure, fuck it.
Happy to do.
True. He'd probably be like, oh, I've not played down here for a while. It's like I'm playing solo queue, lads, and everyone's just like, what is going on here? And he's like, oh, I'm having fun. I'm sitting in the wrong chair because I'm meant to be in that one, but I'm sitting here. And I mean, he's played in the region for so long, so I mean, why not? Also, Sengoku Gaming is a very easy one, as I did not pick a single change, and you gentlemen, after I confirmed, this is partly why I confirmed earlier, we're changing out Appamen from Sengoku Gaming, and we're putting in Ebby as its pure value real estate.
It is. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, the average level of the skill of the team in Sengoku is pretty high.
It is.
We're adding a few more points, basically. If we're doing like FIFA players, we've got like a 92 in Appamen, and we're going for a 97 in Ebby. It's like,
dude. Oh my god, dude. I've been so bored recently. I re-downloaded Black Desert, and I've been grinding out all the gear, and I'm just here, I'm sat here with my guides. I've got like my metaphorical glasses on. I'm just there, like, how am I gonna how am I gonna get one extra AP out of my gear? How am I gonna do this? Just like,
it's Escape from Tarkov level of stuff, isn't it?
It's stupid ass. Yeah, it's Korean grindy MMO. It is.
I never actually played it. It's supposed to be really good though.
I've watched a lot of streams. Very fun game.
Very
interesting game design.
I played it for a little bit, and I realized very quickly it was not for me, and I decided to turn the game off, and I was very happy I did not pay for it. I think would put it like, but it's not my kind of game at the end of the day.
Oh, by the way, just backtracking. You know the game when they changed like the Ziggs and the Lucian? It was week 5 versus Axis. That was game 1, week 5, and they actually lost the game. So
Oh, they lost it, did they?
They did lose the game.
Oh, I thought they won it.
Yeah, they did. No, they lost it.
It was the one where Corporal played Galio support, and they had some really gnarly combos.
Oh, that was
Corporal
dope. Yeah.
that was Coglet's huge week. No, that was
It
week 4.
was.
No, that wasn't that one. No, that was week 4. We had the huge week. It was a bit less of that one. Unyan had a 7-1 and 2 Aatrox game. That was
Oh, sure.
See, all
I
these
remember.
Extra memories getting cluttered in.
I remember. So, V3 esports also might be a interesting one. Myself and I believe Initia1ise, we both went for ripping out Ace and putting in the Hawks Ramone into the mid lane.
And I immediately thought when you guys said that, ooh, that would be interesting. My question is, would it be good? What's the value of taking an Ace for Ramone?
So we're always taking out a mid laner.
Yeah.
So Ace is always going. And now the pick is 2. Gadiadu or Ramone.
I've been really high on Gadiadu, I know that, but...
Yeah. So I think my issue here is I think Gadiadu is a great player. I just don't necessarily know whether he would index hard enough into V3's playstyle to really facilitate what Boogie wants. Boogie and Reyna in particular want to do in the bot lane.
He is a huge team fight player, and V3 do like playing around that. You know, plays stuff like Orianna, which Ace doesn't. That's one thing that's quite interesting. He doesn't play
how they snowball, though.
I mean, part of my problem is taking someone like Gadiadu out of Axis specifically. Is Gadiadu and Unyan have just had a team built around them. How much of that is going to be translated across into V3?
Well,
in an individual player. I mean, Ramone is literally on a team that's on fire. So I mean, it only makes him better. It only can make him better playing with Boogie.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Is Ramone, he'd probably play better than he did this split if he was in that lineup. Gadiadu, that's a question mark. I think one thing which does kind of prop it up for me a little bit is that, I think that V3's bot lane, much bigger point in power than Axis. That means that Gadiadu doesn't have to play around an uneven map. I just think the lanes of V3 are stronger.
It's more in their carry, less in their support.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, in a lot of ways. But I think their 2v2 is...
Because Corporal's arguably always 3rd place, and then you can always... our power rankings always put Reyna and Corporal... Normally Reyna's slightly above, but Corporal normally always 3rd.
Yeah. And then I think that...
I think Hyde is significantly
Paz
worse to Archer.
Paz has a stronger laning phase than Unyan as well, and they're both pretty good at team fighting, right? So I think Paz is probably a straight upgrade over Unyan in this team. So I think that Gadiadu going into that... My problem is that actually it is a different play style because Gadiadu likes to play, Axes like to play, the Sengoku style that we talked about.
Yes.
Play around the early Dragons, the early Heralds, make sure that it's like by the book kind of stuff. But Gadiadu still plays a lot of, the Bursty champs. He loves playing his LeBlanc and stuff. His Syndra, he played that in their loss against but he actually had some huge damage numbers.
But Pyrion does this as well from time to time. When needed.
True.
And we've seen support LeBlanc come out from Ardia when he's got to try and 5v1 basically. I'm mean, tank assassin support, AP mage, bruiser, tank, everything under the sun is Lee Sin. Yes.
My worry is, so cast your minds back to this round 2 series between CJ and V3.
Oh, okay, not too far back.
V3 just kind of fell apart when they played against some really good disengagey kind of stuff, and I think if you put Gadiadu into that team and have his play style. Oh no, that was that was the right one. I was thinking of the right one. So it was the reverse sweep by V3, right?
Yes.
You put Gadiadu in there instead of Ace in those first couple of games. I'm like, actually, I think Gadiadu would probably do better in that situation. It is a bit of an edge case.
But do you think he does better than Ramone?
Yeah,
I think Ramone kind of runs into the same problem that Ardia did when he picked that Echo versus Rascal Jester and something where sometimes being aggressive can just be countered by very methodical, very defensive play with double exhaust.
So the only thing is I get why you go for Gaio, but I still think Ramone would be probably the more sensible pick, if only because cast your eyes back, or your minds back rather, to when the Hawks actually won some games. It was Tussle. They only won.
We're sadly really far back, and I was their number 1 cheerleader. Remember?
I can't remember far back enough. When did this happen?
Because when the Hawks won, it was on the back of Ramone and Tussle getting advantage in the mid 2v2, and then translating it particularly to places like the bot lane and the top lane.
Okay.
And I think that Boogie and Ramone could follow that playstyle very easily. It's kind of what they do anyway. And then kind of translating the mid lane into a roaming style of game where you try to snowball other lanes is something that V3 do very, very well already.
Okay.
I think the fact that Ramone plays that style already, I think, and probably better than how Ace does.
Ramone does play stuff like the Rumble mid and the Azir.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, no, actually, no, I'm happy to say Ramone. I am happy to say that.
we have met a conclusion, and we're going to put in Ramone after a long, lengthy discussion about potentially putting in Gadiadu. I think Gadiadu definitely does deserve that appreciation.
Yeah, no, I think just
I think
looking
there's a conversation that should happen.
It's not like Ramone doesn't has like champion pool issues. The guy's got a good champion
No,
pool.
he was their fixer, remember, for Syros forever, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, he's got a better champion pool than Gadiadu, I think, actually.
Well, I think, so Gadiadu's actually a player I think needs more time for that. I think potentially in another split or two. Maybe even come 2021 summer.
Yeah,
He actually,
very promising.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Axis as a whole, I think it's been arguably the kind of the podcast and the LJL Officially Unofficial's kind of child team. Like we've been like, oh god, please do it, may play us. Like we were just as happy on cast.
Super excited.
Like we were all just like literally just as happy as the players because we had just watched them for all of that. So, rounding off, does anyone actually have that? Because I did not actually write it down.
Well, I was just about to, I didn't write it down, but what we could do is say, like, we go through all of these decided picks and say, is there one which is more impactful?
That's what I wanted to pick. That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't write them down. So Axis's one was pretty concrete, if I remember rightly.
So Axis was Arts, Burning Core
was Hachimecha.
No.
Wait, what? No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
It was Yutori wasn't it, in the bot lane?
Yeah, you guys picked Yutori Miyashi, and I was like,
oh yeah, I switched from Ramone to Yutori.
Yeah, I was like, Z.
First Gaming Act was Hachimecha.
That's the Hachimecha one, yeah.
DFM was Blank.
Hawks was
Gango.
Yes.
After a lot of discussion. Rascal Jester was Ardia after some discussion. Because Sam was like, oh wait, Ebby. And then it was like, wait, no, Ardia is the thing.
Yeah.
Sengoku was Ebby.
Yeah, it was just Ebby. Yeah.
And then V3
well, no, there was no discussion. It was just like that's just that. And,
and then
V3 was the yeah.
Okay.
I would say.
Is there one which actually is more important than the others here?
I think CGA is one for me.
That's pretty good.
Hachimecha, I mean, yeah.
But then you're just basically reverting a squad back to when they were second place in the league. So like.
I might say Axe's Art in for Hyde. I
Mm,
might say that.
Pretty good. I actually wonder whether V3 having Ramone in makes their real weakness has been Ace. Remove that weakness, and I think V3
That's
suddenly
their worst
become a
it has been,
significantly more threatening team.
I think Ninja for Arya is too much of a.
No.
I think that one's a weird one. So I can't comment on that one. DFM Steel for Blank is another one I don't want to comment on because you're just vaguely improving power level.
Like, I'd start, DFM I'd be like, okay, that would be a bit weird.
It's whatever.
Going for the Hawks, I'm just like, okay, that could absolutely be an absolute dumpster fire. Rascal Jester, I think that...
They're too much of mad scientists as Initia1ise put it so many times.
Same with Sengoku, I think.
Oh yeah, same Sengoku. And also Sengoku's one is minor upgrade, right? It's not a huge one that we've done for some of these other ones.
It's not like game changing.
Yeah.
So we're left with Axis having Art in for Hyde, Burning Core having Yutori Miyashi in for Yuhi. I think that's another
That is huge.
Crest Gaming Act having Hachimecha in for Yoshi, and V3 having Ramone in for Ace. I'm probably not gonna go for Ramone in for Ace.
I'm not leaning for that
marks about maybe Ramone maybe he is just playing bad.
Or maybe he's just bad. Yeah, maybe he's not on his peak anymore. Like
that's what I'm saying. Maybe he's just playing badly now. Maybe that would change.
Maybe he's still good enough for challenger leagues and still maybe top 10 in the world in the region, but that doesn't mean you're there to play in the LJL now. We need to see another split definitely from him, and I think we're all agreeing in that one, obviously.
I think so because he took a year off. Remember?
He
played some games.
Yeah, I think I put up Burning Core actually because I think
I was leaning towards that.
See, I don't want to do that one because it's such an easy one to say. Yeah. But I understand it for that exact point of view. It's maybe sometimes the obvious one is just the best one.
Yeah, I mean Hachimecha in for Yoshi could
But then you're just reverting a team back.
I
That's
mean,
And also
Gango's
thinking
new.
that, like,
That's
I mean, let's be
it.
honest,
He would
I
have his
think
art
that-
the turn before. And
Constitute
and
the
Grendel's new, Yoshi's new, Gango's new.
Yeah, so I think that Hachimecha in for Yoshi, I think it's an upgrade, and it's an upgrade in an important role. I think jungle is important, but if you look at the playstyles and where these teams have been going wrong, for Burning Core and Axes, it has sometimes been, having that consistent carry into the late game, because, and the role to do that is ADC.
Yeah.
That is the one to do it. So the question for me is that what's the larger upgrade for in the context of the team? Yutori Miyashi in for Yuhi, who has been very quiet, or Art in for Hyde, who in some games has just lost the game through positioning and stuff.
Yeah. So the thing with Burning Core is I've never doubted their ability to blow open a game early. My issue is that they have this ability to then turn into the American quarterback and just throw it away real hard.
I mean,
real far. Like, it's go for the it's just like, why, guys?
I think my bigger problem with Burning Core is it mostly just turns into the Rayfaki wants show, and then the rest of the team are just kind of around them, and they exist.
So adding in somebody in there who's not around them, there to carry makes a big difference.
I mean, yeah, but at that same time, I mean, existing doesn't mean potentially actually assisting. Like, it could be a deficit and actually could destroy what they currently have. Because if you're taking away what's something that is working, where everyone's kind of funneling into once Rayfaki, and to a point Rocky, where they're kind of like, all right, bot lane is almost just kind of playing backup for what the comp is trying to do. And that's how they pick and ban sometimes. They're very much sometimes the supporting roles of it. Maybe Yutori Mashi actually kills that. I don't think he does. I think Yutori Mashi's just too good of a player for that actually to happen.
I don't think that Yutori Miyashi in any world takes anything from that team. I'm thinking it through in my head. I'm just like, I mean, maybe you could say, oh,
maybe it makes Rayfaki and once worse.
Maybe in some ways, but then it's like, again, maybe if it was a mid laner, you could agree with that. But then for me, it's like an AD carry taking a lot of.
Because once prioritizes Rift Herald and top lane, now he's got to change it and do bot lane priority.
No, but that's the thing though. You tend to.
Yutori Miyashi's very good at playing weak sides.
Yeah, you tend to swap your bot lane to take the Herald a lot of the time. And if you've got bot lane priority, you get to do
Well, normally you take Dragon at 6-7 minutes if you're playing Sengoku's play, which is what he's used to. Whereas Burning Core don't do that. They wait 10 minutes, do Rift Herald, and then go down.
Yeah, but if you go 6 minutes to take Dragon, reset, and then at 8 minutes you've got 2 minutes and you can get reset in there, then you can have the bot lane push another wave back and go up to Herald if they have priority. You actually get both.
But that's a very different way. Rayfaki almost never leaves top lane and to go bot lane.
True.
To do the switch.
And sometimes, I need to look into some of the VODs about that.
So what I will say is that Yutori Miyashi plays solo lane pretty well. So when people do roam, and that would say back when he was playing with Vivid used to do that a fair amount, things like Nautilus and Rakan. So actually, I think the fact that Yutori Miyashi plays things like Ezreal, plays things like Varus, and can stay quite safe on them in a lane by himself. And if that means that Proud is going to be gallivanting, doing his weird roaming things, joining up with once on this aggressive, I think the fact that he can stay safe and still be a massive threat and keep up his GPM means that actually you don't necessarily have to change the playstyle all that much.
But then Art plays Varus, Aphelios, Ashe, who are really.
Does he play safe as well? He wants someone there around him to blow up people with.
And that's what I'm saying is basically Art becomes a playmaker for his team. That sometimes, like, if you look at their series versus
Art is the bot lane AD carry for Rascal Jester, by the way, listeners.
Yeah. So Art, if I was going to switch him into Axes, I'd be like, hey, I mean, this guy's really good at setting up for his team, and also he's just really good in lane. And we talked about Corporal already having some really good mechanics. I think that Art. I think maybe. Oh God, I don't know. It is between Art and Yutori Miyashi for me. It's the changes in Axes.
It is.
It's down there for me. It's just like. What's more important?
I'd rather lean with you guys, honestly, and go for Yutori Miyashi, even though I hate it and I don't think it would have. I don't know if it would work in you guys how you predict it would.
Right now?
I mean, I would lean with you guys because I want Axis to have another split in their current state, frankly. I want them to actually. They've got momentum now, so why not? And it's quite clearly working, right? They're not 8th place.
Yeah, sure.
So something's changing, and as the split went on, they looked better and better in every role. So maybe give Hyde another split. If it doesn't work out, that's when you can start doing stuff. And also, that's when everyone's contracts run. So
I agree. But the problem for me is, like, you kind of know that you're not going to be winning top and bot lane in terms of priority for most games that you play. You kind of know that, particularly when you come up against the stronger lanes. When you play against a Sengoku or something, like, they just kind of get a bit dumpstered. in terms of those lines, in terms of the priority, and that means that Hoglet's options are limited, and Hoglet looks worse. Whereas Hoglet, when he's he's had the options, has looked very good. I think I'm leaning towards Art. I think.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Although,
I can
like,
see that. I'll take that option. That's fine. Yeah.
I'd be
'Cause
looking at Art.
so I think it's a question between like whether the kind of star power of Art is enough to bring Axis over the edge, or whether the play style shift for Burning Core, at least like not early, but kind of team fight to mid game, is more relevant for Burning Core. I think is probably the question, isn't it? Like, does Yutorimayashi's team fighting prowess and the increased DPM offer more to Burning Core than Art's kind of things have gone wrong, let me carry for you?
I mean, for both teams, it's a strict upgrade.
Because
so,
the 2v2 gets much stronger. It
yeah,
means
like we're not saying it's like, does this make that spot better? That's obvious. That's
and
very.
If I'm going to apply the same arguments I just used for Axe and say, well, now you can like play around bot lane priority and stuff. Does that change once? And you were kind of saying, well, once really likes to be around top lane and do the very far, around.
He likes to be the enemy
well,
jungler.
but then
Exactly.
I can play devil's advocate on myself and go, well, that's because they know that Rayfark is their only hope half the time.
Their only option, right? Because that's my point. Is actually, I think it saves that. I think they throw less if they don't have to try so hard. Is my read.
I'm going.
But again, they may just still throw. They may just
in the sense of our podcast timing, I am going to be saying Yutorimayashi in for Burning Core. Gentlemen, I want your votes as soon as you're able to.
Okay.
I'm going to say Art. I'm going to say Art in for Hyde. So it's actually 2-1 then.
Okay.
Okay.
So majority rules, as we do always go, but obviously we make that a caveat and we do say it's a 2 for 1.
And it was between those two. We all agree it's between those two.
Yeah.
With the outside choice of Hatchmatch for Crest Gaming.
I think a lot of the other ones, it's either too much of a change, even though we all agree for it, it's too much of a change for us to truly know if it makes it better or worse, or it's like, well, it probably does make it better, but how much of an upgrade is it? I think the easiest one for that is someone like Ninja for Ardia, which obviously makes it better for Rascal Jester, but how much? And is that actually going to destroy something else in the background? Like, there's more questions than answers, but we just like it anyway. So we just shrug our shoulders and go for it. Again, Appamen in Sengoku for Ebi. Probably it makes it significantly better, but by the percentage and equity, the amount you're getting there, probably not worth it. Probably not. Whereas someone like Yutorimayashi or Art for Axis or Burning Core, respectively, probably significantly bigger.
And you know what? It's going to be really fun to see if any team has any significant roster changes between.
If we predict this shit, man.
Well, and there's also stuff like
they're listening to the cast. That's it.
Yeah, and of course, some people from the major regions might take a break and come over here. Well, I say take a break, take a different angle in their career and try and make it over here as well. You know, like the local community for the LJL is pretty huge. Might see some of it with the franchising the LCK. Maybe that comes into some pretty big plays in terms of those players coming over here as well. So yeah, and it's been a really interesting thought experiment. I kind of came up with this a bit on a whim, and it's come out as something actually pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how this came out. I want to pass it over to both of you back again for any quick closing thoughts before we end our podcast.
I think this has been a really good deep dive into what we think makes different teams tick. And I think that's been really cool to go into. There's been some disagreements, and sometimes it's because there's a lot of things that are kind of...
It's pure opinion half the time. Yeah,
or it's always things like, there's lots of unknowns in this as well, but like I think it's been quite interesting to go in on that deep dive and say, well, what makes this team tick, what makes things better, what makes things worse. And I hope that's been content worth going over. It's definitely helped me actually think about what I think about these teams. So I've been really happy doing it. Hope you guys been happy listening to it.
Yeah, and as I say, for everyone listening to this, obviously, thank you very much. We do very much appreciate your patronage, although we don't have a Patreon, so you can't have a Patreonage as well.
I see where you're going with that.
I hope you guys found some value out of us kind of talking about... I was trying to segue something, but yeah, no, I hope you guys found this valuable in terms of if not agreeing with us, at least having the thought processes over a lot of these teams, because you might have your own ideas about the roster swaps yourself, because the LJL it's an interesting league. It's not necessarily always it's the LCK where everyone has coverage everywhere. Sometimes you have to form your own opinions, and that's what we're doing here, and we absolutely invite you guys to do that as well. So
Don't disagree with
value. Yeah, hope you have found some value out of this, regardless of what you thought.
Yeah, I think this is a really different way of kind of looking at the teams and seeing what potential improvements already that potentially coaches, managers, owners, and the players themselves might be thinking what's greener pastures for them. And it's also, I think it's interesting to highlight some of the players that we've talked about in teams that we don't want to move. I think Corporal is a really nice one to kind of highlight. I think Boogie is another really nice one to highlight. I think we did move Yutorimashi. We also moved Aria, but I think someone like Nap is an interesting player who basically
never considered it.
We never moved him. I mean, someone like Art and Vivid combo. Actually, we talked about, but outside of the very, very end, we were very hesitant to move Art. I mean, the Hawks are the Hawks, so we don't talk about that. Ray Farkey, arguably the second best top laner, didn't get moved.
And Sam and I were very hesitant to move someone like Once.
Yes.
Say from Burning Core, say well, I mean, as much as there could be value in that, we are worried what it would do to the identity of the team, and there's so many different players that we can talk about.
I think Proud in that sense as well
true.
is a very good point. But I mean, this has been just such a cool episode to actually do. Also, we're trying to have a slightly shorter episode, so we've tried going along, except that these two still keep rambling. So we've not quite hit that 2-hour mark, thankfully. As always, thank you so much for listening. You can find this podcast on all major streaming platforms, including Spotify and YouTube, where you could be watching this podcast as well. You can see our lovely faces all the way through. And obviously, through that, you can also find in the description of our video that we have everything else. We're on iHeartRadio and all those other major streaming platforms for it, except SoundCloud, because I've done that spiel. Obviously, we have no affiliation with Riot Games, Riot Japan, or any of their partners, and everything we do say is our own individual appearance and also does not represent the LJL Officially Unofficial and our associated cast that goes with it. Obviously, PSA, be safe, try and look after yourself as best as possible, talk to friends, wash your hands, and tell those that you care about that you're thinking of them so that everybody feels the love a little bit. But for myself, Nymaera, and Initia1ise, thank you so much for listening. Have a lovely rest of your day and take care. Jane.